What an exciting game for Bobcat fans, I think, today. Not so exciting if you're a coach and or parent or, people that have been following us and know what this team can do, especially at the free throw line. I think that was pretty stressful, largely because I felt like we got over that hump, and we've been shooting free throws quite a bit, and I really feel like we could have nailed it if we'd have got some free throws. But you know what? The kids found another way. The one thing I loved about this team towards the end of the game is that you kind of saw it in their eyes. I don't know if you saw it as well, but I felt it with them. The energy level was one that there are times where I was like, oh, let me call a timeout. I was like, you know what? I see it. Let them play and flow. And it's interesting, as your team matures, do you let them play and flow to make a play, or do you call timeouts to micromanage? In this game, I didn't feel like I needed to micromanage them. In past games, I've kicked myself in the butt for not micromanaging them. But in this particular sense, the way I felt, the way the crowd was in their back, the way they were playing, I honestly always knew they were going to win the game. I just didn't know, at what point. Just because of the way they were in sync, just because of the way the team was in sync. So I think that's fun. I think Troy's a very good team. I think they're just trying to come into their own. Coach Rigby's only going into her second year. There's some things right now that they don't always necessarily connect on, but anytime you have a kid who's up there with Odyssey Simmons and scoring and Harden, that makes it tough, as well as she's got some kids who are pretty balanced as far as their ability to be able to stretch it out and shoot the three. You've always got a chance.
Coach, down by three, the shot that Erin hit was that, I'm sure that wasn't a design shot. Can you tell me what you guys were, what the play was?
Well, we ran what we always run, offensively speaking. The difference is the focal point was more on getting to the rim and having opportunities to get to the free throw line because we were in the bonus situation. And that was it. That truly wasn't anything fancy. There was nothing fancy whatsoever, design-wise. We ran a couple quick hits that we've run before, but again, it's nothing out of the ordinary for us. More so, the focal point was do a good job of nailing your screens, because we clearly understood that Troy struggles defensively. We would be able to find ourselves just some open opportunities that are in flow. And our point was get to the free throw line.
Speaking of flow, Coach, down 71-67, Troy missed a free throw. The point guard grabs the ball. Troy girls on the ground. She takes it the length of the floor, does not seize the advantage to do that. I mean, that's talking about confidence and recognizing that stuff, right?
And that's part, too, of the fact that kind of where this team is. Again, I go back to the maturity and just understanding. I will say this, if there's anything that I've changed more recently that we did in the beginning in the preseason, is we do a lot of what you call situations. You put up X amount of time, this is a situation, and let them play against the scout guys. I've done that the last 3 practices. Do I think that has some factor in me being okay letting them play? Yes, I do, because in those situations we do them in practice. Coaches aren't allowed to talk. It's really hard for my staff, but I said, no, we just listen. We listen to what they're thinking, how they're thinking. So in those situations, if we're where we don't have a timeout, or if you do, they all are kind of on sync as to what needs to happen next, understanding time and score. And that's, all young women that are out there, not just your point guards, but your scoring guards. So I do think that helped my ability to be able to trust them there in that situation. And Ariel knew. I mean, whether she sees it a benefit or not right now, Ariel sitting on the bench has helped her more than anything else, because she has the opportunity as a point guard to kind of see what's going on.
What does above being over 500 in conference do for your team's confidence?
I think right now, I don't think they're thinking in terms of overall wins and losses as much as are we doing better and how are we competing. I mean, that you can ask them how that makes them feel. I think ultimately for us, it's about putting ourselves in position to have an opportunity for postseason play. And the one thing I've said to this team already, and I said this in a pregame talk earlier, was by the time we hit that Western Kentucky game, we need to be at 100% of where we need to be. As far as everything's installed, we need to be running like clockwork and then make little adjustments. And I thought we're at 80% right now going into this game. After I evaluate, I'll have a good idea of kind of where we are. From a coaching standpoint, I think we're right where we want to be.
Joanna Harden puts up 21 points, but on 8 of 32 shooting. What do you think you did well defensively to hold her to such a low number when you know how big of a scorer she can be?
I think Kaylin Martin, especially in the first half, for the most part, she probably guarded her 80% of the time, unless it was in transition. She just did a great job on it. The kid only had 6 points. Recognizing that, and they can tell you at halftime, we understood this kid's going to want to get to the free throw line. She's shooting in the 80s, first off, and she's going to want to score, because that's her role, and that's what her team needs to do in her wins. And so I think we did a good job, honestly, of contesting her shot, getting her frustrated. This young woman, I heard her quite a bit, and I think the more frustrated she got, the more she honestly got into her own head. I think our team did a good job of managing and composing themselves and getting after it. I think it kind of fired them up.
still she has a shot to, right before overtime. What were you thinking as that's going up in the air, knowing, how dynamic of a scorer she can be? And
Rebound. That's all I'm ever thinking, honestly. Whether it goes in or not, my thought is always rebound, solidify the ball, and then push tempo right now in this particular game because we have the opportunity to get to the free throw line. Second piece is I'm always cautious of who has the ball, because I know, generally speaking, if they do foul, that's putting a certain player to the free throw line, and I'm always just kind of playing those odds. She scores, I know we've got to score, and we think a lot in terms of, I think a lot in terms of trying to teach them to think in terms of possessions versus points. So, whether it's a 2-possession game, if you're down by 6, that's still 2 possessions, and that's what they need to understand. It's 2 possessions. Of course, we could make that into 3, but to understand, you don't need to jack up threes. You don't need to set up offense either, but to get quick scores, get to the free throw line, you think in terms of possessions.
Zenarae, 45 minutes in this game. I mean, just 9 turnovers, 16 fouls. I mean, those are numbers you have. Even though you like 0 and 0 in those places, you have to be thinking positive about that. Decision making.
For sure. And I'm really excited because as you all saw, we ran 3 point guards out there for quite a bit of time. They took care of the basketball there, and I think they were pretty safe. And again, that was part of my micromanaging. But then again, I can also let them play pretty freely. I appreciated that, especially because they're going to try to turn it up defensively. They're a pretty erratic team from understanding after watching film. They didn't mix it up as much as I thought they would. They're more into we're just going to outscore you. And so our ability to be able to rebound was going to be really important for us. And obviously, you're right, valuing possessions down the end.
Erin, you talked about your performance tonight. You played well, 22 points, 8 of 13 shooting. Were you feeling it out there tonight?
I just wanted to win. It was a good feeling scoring, but I know I had to turn it up on defense.
Do you feel like you're playing your best basketball right now?
I can always get better, so I haven't played my best basketball. I can always get better.
You look a lot more confident on offense this year. Is there anything you did different compared to last year coming into this year?
No, I just worked on my offensive game in preseason, and it helped me flow now.
Coach Z, did you see anything different this year?
The only difference is Erin is truly a guard. She's a wing forward type kid. And so we've switched it up that way. I think that's helped her because she can go back to what she did a little bit of last year as well as face up. The other thing that I like about Erin is she truly understands. I think the struggle for Erin is, this happens with great players, is that because she's so athletic and long, she's really able to disturb people defensively. We're asking her to play quite a few minutes and play on both ends and be that go-to player for us defensively sometimes in matchups, as well as offensively to balance out Ezeh. I think that part of understanding how I can do that and how to manage that was really important for her as a student athlete.
Ashley, how's the senior leadership role that you've taken on this season going for you?
It's been good. I have my other 2 seniors, Jasmine and Kayla. So, they respect us a lot. They look up to us. So, if we going hard in practice, we going hard in the game, then our freshmen, our sophomores, our juniors, they follow our lead because, we're not going to be here next year. So they got to take up on themselves to build up their leadership and show that they can do it without us. So I feel like it's going a good way leading up into after the season play.
Erin, does it kind of fire you up knowing that you guys were going up against such a prolific, if you want to say, scorer, in the nation, and then shut her down like you guys did? She missed nearly as many shots as you guys made, so obviously there's something to go. With your defense.
I felt good about our defense. We did a great job. Caitlin did a great job on her.
What was the game plan specifically against Joanna out there? What was it?
Contained.
I think they always knew that she was going to get shots off. It's just a matter of making it difficult for her. Don't give her anything easy. The kid's going to get shots off, period. And I think they did a good job of that. And the second piece of that was don't allow anyone else to get past their average.
Coach, when we were walking in, we were talking about how hard it is to know these teams because you haven't been able to scout them and all that stuff, and you haven't been able to. You're almost through the first half of this conference season. Do you feel better about what's going to happen in the second half based on what you've seen in the first half?
I do. As far as preparedness to help this team, I think so. You have the opportunity to take a look at more film because one of the things I talked about was, my first year I was in one conference, the next year I was in the following conference, and this year obviously we're here in the Sun Belt Conference. And when you're scouting as a coach, there's generally a familiarity. Now the familiarity for us is, for our staff, is we know a lot of the players in their game, but how they've made that transition as student athletes has been kind of interesting to watch, and then how our team is able to match up. You really and truly don't know until the kids are able to throw the ball up, and the game starts. So it's nice as you near, February to already kind of have some of those under our belts. We can move forward, as well as the team. And I think it works both ways. Sometimes that can work to your advantage because there's an unknown, and sometimes it can work to your disadvantage. And just finding a good balance where we could, help these young women out, it's really important that we continue to grind away at the film.